Hello and welcome to PushMower Repair. Today we're going to go over how to replace an ignition coil or check and service an ignition coil on a Briggs & Stratton engine. This process is similar for most Briggs & Stratton engines from 3 to 6 horsepower.
Okay, so the tools needed in this video is a socket wrench with a 10 and an 8mm, Phillips head screwdriver, and a drill with a wire brush on the end. Okay, so on this lawnmower we've tested the spark plug and the spark plug lead and we've found that neither of them work. To find out how we've tested the lead, you can look at it in another video we show on spark plug testing. But next thing we have to do is to take off this cover to have a look at the ignition and find out why the lead isn't working. Okay, so we're going to begin by undoing this Phillips head so we can take off the throttle. And then this bolt at the front, it's a 10mm, sometimes an 11. And this one. And over here. And the cover will lift off. Okay, so this here is the ignition coil that provides the spark. There's a few things we want to check. Basically, if you look here, you'll see there's barely a gap between the flywheel and the ignition coil. And that's how you want it to be. You want it to be real close, so when the magnets on the flywheel spin past, they almost touch the coil. And we see that that seems fine, so what we're going to do is take the coil off and have a look at it. So then the coil will come off. And if you look under here, pull that off. Okay, so this part we pulled off is what turns the spark on and off depending on the throttle. If you see this tab here, that little tab, when the throttle's off, it turns the thing off. When it's on, the tab's released. So when you're testing your spark plug, if you didn't make sure the tab was off, you might want to check that before you go any further. But if you did make sure it was off and it was in the on position, then this isn't your problem. But you can check this wire and see if it's cut anywhere. Because if the wire is cut and touching the metal, then that will be causing your spark not to happen. Okay, so some coils, if they provide a weak spark or no spark, can be fixed by a little bit of a service. And see this part here, if you grind that off a little and shine it up so it's a fresh surface with no rust or dirt, and then come around to the flywheel, and if you see all the magnets, they're quite rusty. If you grind them off too and make them shiny, it can sometimes produce a better spark or fix your problem. And so we'll do that now. Okay, so just going to grind off the rust. Now if you have a look, see the magnets are like new, nice and smooth, nice and shiny, and that's what we want to see. So we've put this in a vise to just sturdy it so we can grind it, and we're just going to go ahead and do it. You want to be careful not to go sideways too much because you don't want to split these small little flaps of metal. Just want to come more of this angle. So you can see the surface is shiny now and should produce a better spark. You can just check over the lead. You can see there's no cuts. You can see a little bit of wear, but that's not cut through. And basically check everything over, and then you can put it back on and test for spark. However, if you don't have spark still, it's likely there's something wrong in here that you can't fix, and you're going to have to replace the coil. So for us, we're going to put it back on and test it now. Okay, so before we put it on, we have to connect this back up. It just goes on that tab, like so. And then we can put the ignition back down. Make sure there's nothing under it that could get caught, like the throttle. Grab your 2 bolts. This one goes through the governor assembly. The other one just through there. You want to just loosely tighten them. And that way you can line up. And you don't want to have it on the magnet side, because if you can see, on the magnet side it's sucked the ignition in, and it's 100% touching. So line it up where there is no magnet, and then pull it just a fraction away from the fryer wheel, and tighten it up. And then once it's tight, it should be really close but not touch. Just like that. You can see that. Next we're going to grab our cover, place it back on, make sure the spark plug's in that little groove so you don't chop it. And then we put the cover on. Okay, so now we've serviced the ignition. We're going to test and see if the spark's working now. If you see there, we have a nice blue spark. If you don't have a spark, it's likely you're going to have to replace your ignition completely.